feels like we're living in a golden age of AI. LLMs like ChatGPT have exploded onto the scene, attracting massive investment and promising a future where AGI is just around the corner. But what if all this hype is building a house of cards? What if the intense focus on LLMs is actually a distraction, a self-reinforcing bubble that's about to burst? Right. Do you agree with this? Is the LLM bubble about to burst?
I think so. We've been predicting it uh, from the standpoint of from the time that ChatGPT was released, which is almost 2 years ago now. You saw that bubble building very, very rapidly. There was precursors that was going to go that way. I noticed way back in about 2015, 16 that artificial neural networks and had become synonymous with the term AI. So everybody was talking about AI, and when you call it AI, it brought in, all 5 decades of since the beginning of AI, 6, 7 decades really, back from the 50s, of the expectations and hype that have, entered into our culture from Robbie the Robot, from Rosie the Robot, and Robbie the Robot, all those wonderful, the Jetsons, that future of AI, it inherited that mantle of excitement. And then with um, ChatGPT, there came this invention that really seemed like, wow, here's AI like we've never seen it before. And of course, it's called AI, and people use it for AI, and the people build it call it AI, and they also very consciously jumped in to the narrative that great progress in AI, singularity, um, all that idea of AI going faster and faster until we get to artificial general intelligence, which is the kind of robots that that would cut your grass and cook your world, and we've had unlimited productivity. So that's been what people were sold, and by and large have believed over the past 2 years, and to the point where it is a societal phenomenon. Um, I would say it's way bigger than the dot-com bubble. We can talk about the financial parameters. I'm not necessarily a financial guy, but just in people's minds, the internet was not as people were not as excited by the internet as they are from AI. Nor should they have been if it really is AI. Um, it is bigger. It is bigger than the internet. Sandra Boucher said it was bigger than fire. I don't disagree with that. AI is bigger than fire, but LLMs, chatbots, we've been saying we've been saying since the transformer algorithm that underlies all LLMs was first articulated that that's data science. It's not intelligent in the same sense that we mean when we talk about human intelligence. It's data science. There's no knowledge, there's no thought by any reasonable definitions of those words. So what is it? It's a parrot. An article yesterday pointed out a study which was done not long ago. I read it at the time. That the more people know about how chatbots work, the less likely they are to use them. And what is that? Well, duh. Why? Because they understand how they work. It's sequencing words statistically. It's not thinking. The summation of statistically relevant word orderings does not necessarily track into thoughts or ideas that any human beings may have had, who wrote the words that went into the data center. It may statistically align with that sometimes and not align with that other times, and there's no way to ever stop that alignment. So that means that LLMs will always have a degree of hallucination, no matter how big they get. So people understand how it works, have understood that, and that's uh, even the ones who use it every day. Uh, but the more you understand that, less likely they are to use it. But the people who don't understand how they work at all have bought into the illusion that they do not understand that these things are in fact parrots, stochastic parrots, statistical parrots. They 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 go with their gut feeling about them, and their gut feeling says that they are intelligent, they are thinking, they are actually communicating ideas to them, that they have minds and they have a degree of creativity. Now, everybody uses them, understands they have certain limitations. The narrative that they're going to get better with bigger and bigger data sets is still there, although this past couple of weeks with the release of GPT, that narrative has taken a major hit because ChatGPT is not so much better than 4.0 as the proportional increase in its data sets would lead one to believe or hope. It's like 500 times bigger data set than ChatGPT-4, and it's only marginally better. And so there's a vast disappointment. It was hyped as being the model that was going to herald AGI, and it's not measurably closer to it. And so that narrative of AGI and the narrative of unlimited scaling, I think, have probably had a mortal blow dealt to them. Even Sam Altman said, well, maybe the days of scaling, of LLMs are past, and we will find other ways. And he's still talking about AGI, but now he's talking about GPT-6, but, they're going to do something different. Maybe some magic algorithm. I mean, something. Maybe they'll hire Gary Marcus and start writing rules and put it small AI inside. Uh, I doubt it. But it's going to be a while. The question is the financial money that's going in there. As long as that bubble was going up, people poured money into it, and probably the more cynical investors, we're going to do Microsoft this week and OpenAI next week and Anthropic next week, depending on what they do, and they ride those waves. OpenAI comes out with something cool, and its stock goes up. Everybody jumps on it, its stock goes up. Next week is Microsoft because they did something with Copilot or not. The stock goes up, or somebody did something with data centers. Somebody signed a nuclear power plant, and they're going to invest in that because it's all about scaling. But I think a lot of those investors realize that it's just a speculative bubble. They don't care if AI or AGI or they just feel they're smart enough. It's like musical chairs. They feel I'm smart enough to ride these waves and these trends that I'll get into a chair before the music stops. Or even the fact they know it's going to be a bubble, they can still be looking for it every day and jump on it the minute it happens. I remember the dot-com bubble, and it was stark, sharp, and sudden. It was like you popped a high-pressure balloon. And we don't know how the mechanics of this, the internet was real. It was real technology. But people knew that 90% of the companies that were overinflated in their valuations, were only a handful were going to succeed. And a handful did and became the big tech companies of today based on internet technology. But only a handful, because there are no barriers of entry. Just like today in AI, there's no barriers of entry. Difference is that the internet was a real thing, a real technology, really made a huge difference. It's not at all clear that LLMs are going to make much of a difference. Make a little difference. People do them. They're fun, especially people who understand how they work. They're exciting. It's magical. It's like getting something for nothing. And it creates an illusion of productivity even without delivering it. Like the study that showed the programmers who were sure that it made them 20% more productive when the actual measurements of how long it took them to solve the problem showed that it made them 20% less productive. But so people still like them. So they'll be around, but they're kind of like, it's kind of like a fad. I think it'll survive, but it's not world changing. So in that sense, it's going to be um, a pretty severe correction in financial markets, I think. But some balloons just get a pinhole leak and they kind of deflate slowly, and some go boom. So I can't predict which is happening, but I do think that the scalability narrative has been damaged, and the road to AI have been damaged, and ChatGPT was the turning point there. Those narratives get harder and harder, but it hasn't popped yet. I mean, I think I would guess, again, I'm not a financial guy, um, but I think that NVIDIA shares, that's kind of canary in the coal mine. Because what are you going to do with those big data sets if we're not going to get to AGI through scaling LLMs? It doesn't make sense.
If the bubble pops and people lose a lot of money, as we're all predicting, what happens to AI? Do we just go to an AI winter? Because right now, there's really no way for LLMs or transformers to get to AGI. And so what people are going to expect is that, or assume is that the entire pathway to AGI is dead because LLMs are just incapable of that.
A lot of people will think that. And case in point, when expert systems, when that bubble burst, it wasn't as dramatic, but symbolic AI had been hyped, and as the road to AGI, um, people got so disillusioned. All the investment money pulled out of AI, and my second company, Altair, invented a very promising, a very powerful new approach to AI, which worked, which is the underlies what New Sapiens has today. The first time knowledge was actually captured, curated from human minds, and put into a computable form and produced exactly the kind of application that expert systems were touted to be able to perform, but we did it in a scalable way. But we couldn't call it AI, or didn't bother to call it AI, even though it was probably actually maybe the first time in history, there was actually a technology that earned the name intelligence. Because for the first time in history, human knowledge was actually being processed in a computer and producing exactly the similar results. No hallucinations, 100% accurate, and 100% expert, and scalable. And, it might have gone on immediately from them, but the fact that we were in an AI winter, they called it the AI winter, and it lasted from the late started at into the 80s and lasted really into the early 2000s when um, artificial neural networks and supercomputers and big data sets opened up these new vistas of what AI could be, or what they called AI. So we don't want that to happen to us right now at New Sapiens. We don't want to have to go through that same thing. But even today, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to, I don't want to hear about AI. The investors are going to run. I lost all this money. I lost so much money. Don't even talk to me about that. And But there's a lot of people even today that said they're saying, there's the people who have been skeptical about LLMs as being truly on the path to AGI. They're saying obviously one of the downsides of this lemming-like stampede in LLM investment and LLMs generally by corporations and companies and startups and VCs is that it's obscuring um, promising alternative approaches to stuff. And of course, I would submit that New Sapiens is the poster child to a promising alternative because we already have something that works and already can demonstrate um, capturing knowledge and reasoning and language, understand the words, analyzing grammar and syntax, and it has common sense knowledge of the world. And we can demonstrate that. But we're a tiny company way down in the noise level. We're surrounded by dinosaurs, and which is, you know, are we the little mammals that when the meteor comes for LLMs and it's all crashes? Is it going to be a meteoric impact? And the big tech companies will take a huge corrections, and all those little AI companies will go up in smoke, and even the big ones probably. Uh, I would predict if the bubble burst pretty sure that what happened, all those AI companies, um, and for OpenAI eventually would just get absorbed into the surviving big tech companies. They'll be gone. But within the light, will the sapiens be the mammals who survive? I think so. But we are trying to position ourselves today, which is why we talk about the fundamental principles of our approach is where we talk about the fundamental problems with data science and um, artificial neural networks and LLMs with respect to human knowledge and intelligence. So that when we're ready, our hope is that whatever happens, whether it's a meteor or it's just a slow deflating um, of the balloon of the LLM bandwagon, that we'll shortly be in a position to demonstrate our sapiens, our true AIs, unequivocally. And imagine what that would look like. Well, one of the things, of course, that we are concentrated on, we've already solved how to curate any kind of human knowledge and put it into a machine and reason about it in a very compact way, such that we don't need supercomputers, we don't need $1 million, $100 million algorithm designers, we don't need vast data sets. We just need handful of ordinary programmers and a handful of people who can build these models who themselves have a good, broad, common sense and philosophical notion of what human knowledge is all about. Doesn't take vast amount of money, but we believe we are really just months away from being able to put a sapiens in your hand. And one of the things we've concentrated on, we put in the common sense knowledge that's necessary to comprehend human language so that a sapiens can talk to people. Now, that's not how we will educate sapiens after that. We won't talk to them. And it's really just a user interface with people, because that's humans' primary user interface with each other, right? We don't call it user interface. We talk about talking and communication. But that's what you'd like to be able to do to a machine, is make it learn your language and speak to you. Well, we've done that. And we're not there yet. But we're getting close to it. Today, talk to a sapiens is maybe talking to a 3-year-old that understands some of what you say, doesn't understand other things. But we're getting pretty close for anybody to have that conversation. Now, LLMs have given a tremendous illusion of communication, but I would submit that people will be more excited to talk to an AI that actually was like talking to a 5-year-old in all respects than talking to a slick, LLM that talks all the time, but you really pretty kind of realize that it doesn't really understand what I'm saying. I think that's going to be a game changer. And at that point, I don't think it matters what whether if there's an AI winter brewing, that is a huge disillusionment that nobody believes in AI anymore, and that it might never happen, may be impossible. There will be a lot of people who say that after this bubble bursts, however it bursts. There were a lot of people. It's just not possible, because a lot of people already believe and feel that things like consciousness, the experience of being consciousness, the experience of qualia, that those things are fundamentally necessary for intelligence, and that you never can achieve that in a machine. It's a thesis, it's a model. I don't disparage people who feel that way. But I believe, though, that when you talk to a sapiens, when we reach that point, that tipping point of comprehension, the understanding that it is intelligence in the same sense that we mean it, human beings, will be so powerful that we don't care. It won't matter what we call it. I mean, we call it synthetic intelligence. We don't even call it AI. People will call it AI. And it will, I mentioned earlier, the phenomenon of AI becoming in common usage synonymous with data science and artificial neural networks and then LLMs synonymous. I think you'll see a snap back, that the term AI will be pulled back from those things and attached to what we're doing, because what we're doing fits everybody's intuitive notion of what AI should be or should have been. And they don't quite get there. They're thinking that a lot of people feel that LLMs are truly intelligent, but they're very aware they're not quite intelligent the way humans are. There's something kind of alien about them and limited about them. And hopefully many people might recognize there's something dangerous about them because illusions, particularly good illusions, sometimes can be very, very dangerous. Okay. So we're thinking, but the skeptics who have been skeptical already, who know how LLMs work, when they talk to a sapiens, they'll be the first to realize, oh, this is different. This is clearly not statistical word order. Of course, they know it's not statistical word ordering because look inside our computers. We don't have any giant supercomputers and data centers or data sets. Clearly, look at the code. You can see how it works. And we're already showing people how it works. We're already showing how you can say something, and then we can go in and show you how this interesting, non-symbolic, compact graph structure is created inside the computer, and the computer stores the information that it extracts from the English that you put into it, and then can answer questions about that information based on questions that are in English, and comes out and it can articulate the answer correctly. Fundamentally different. So I don't think that there's going to be a new AI winter this time because we're here and we're able to be compelling. I mentioned back in my last company in the mid-90s, Altair, that we did have a promising AI, but it wasn't that clear what it was. It was limited to a narrow domain. So it looked like more a narrow AI rather than the path to AGI. I mean, everybody talks AI and they create something that they always think it's the path to AGI. They thought expert systems was the path to AGI. I didn't think that what we did at Altair was necessarily the path to AGI, and so I thought about it for another 10 years. I wasn't sure, but it turned out to be. So, yeah, I think I think ChatGPT 5 probably was an inflection point. If you interpret that in terms of the Gartner hype cycle, which, that S curve of go up and up and up and excitement, 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 and hype, and reaches a peak, and the peak of that hype, I think was just before ChatGPT 5 was released. I think if I have any image in my mind about the very peak of the Gartner hype cycle, it was that meme that Sam Altman put out there, the Death Star rising over the planet. That was the top of the Gartner hype cycle for LLMs. And it's going up the top, and now it's starting to come down. Now, how steep, how fast, so it reaches the bottom of that hype cycle, which is called the trough of disillusionment, I don't know. I don't think you can predict that. I would guess pretty fast. You've seen a lot of arguments, a lot of disillusionment articles. I would say, I look at the articles every day about AI and LLMs. I would say the disillusionment articles are out running, or out. There's more of them out there now than there are still hype, and this is all going to be great. And LLMs are great, productivity is increasing, and all that stuff. I definitely think, I think on the downside now. It's just a matter of time and how low it goes.